Hello and welcome, everybody. It's nice to see everybody here again. I mean, it's been a while since I've been on stream, and it's been a while since we've had you here at the VCS English. We were around last week to cover Week 1 games. Unfortunately, we had to miss yesterday, but we're happy to be back to report some of what happened yesterday, and of course, the two amazing series that we've got set up here for you today. My name's Rebel Fox, and alongside me, Akamask. How are things in Germany this morning?
Yeah, things in Germany are great this morning. It's rainy, so like I feel like in UK, but in the end, yeah, it's just the German weather, and we laugh and hate to see it at the same time.
Yeah, we went from like 5 inches of snow and like freezing rain here to like 55 degrees, and then it's just been pouring. So I'm ready for a little bit of sunshine at some point, or just some freezing winter weather. I really don't care. Just stop with the rain as much as possible.
Please just give me 15 degrees Celsius and sun, and then I'm happy, right? But what currently is happening? Nah, I'm out of this.
Mm-hmm. So let's just talk about what happens. First off, today we have two amazing series for all you wonderful folks. Box, I called them Box already. I knew I was going to do it at least once. MGN Blue, old Box Esports from the previous play, is going to be taking on GAM Esports, who had an amazing week number one. I think our draft is already getting ready and underway for that one here any second now. And then a little bit later on in today, Flash is going to be taking on Viking Esports. When we've got a second, we'll kind of double back. We'll talk about what happened with Wales versus Rainbow Warriors and Team Secret beating Cerberus. I think our most important thing is we're getting ready to kind of discuss these first few series. Are we going to finally get our 3-game series, and are we going to get our 1v1 for side selection? It's the coolest role anyone's ever implemented in this game, period, in professional play, and yet we still have yet to see it.
Yeah, well, maybe we will see it today. I would be hyped, certainly. I mean, like, it feels like people prefer Red Side at the moment. So, seeing this implemented is fairly cool. We already see bans. Kalista, good champion at the moment. You have to kind of ban it. Also, Rumble ban, fairly reasonable against GAM. They played Rumble in both of their games last week. So, in the end, Senna is going to be first picked by MBE.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing now that we get a chance to talk about these compositions a little bit, Rumble has been a beast, and this is a region where they already liked to play Rumble in like 3 different roles, so I'm not surprised that was an instant grab. Tristana mid lane is still something that works pretty well, and so especially for like Blazes. This was interesting because I was worried about Soren's champion pool here against Levi. Levi, in the past has been a little bit slow to update his champion pool with some of the modern stuff, and Soren already showed last week. I mean, he played an Elise game. I was really upset that Spoods wasn't around for that one, and a Brand game out of nowhere to have like the Void Grub domination and everything else. And so Levi picking up the Brand here is a little bit out of character.
That's not a brand.
Obviously. Thank you for proving my point, Gam. I appreciate that one.
I feel like Brand is something that really fits with Froggy's champion pool. We have not talked about that yet, but Froggy is someone who appreciates those tanks in mid lane and also those Gallios with a lot of magic resist, and playing like Cyan and Elise also always set up great compositions to roam onto sideline. And afterwards, I mean, you want to play around those white grubs. They seem pretty strong still. Like, people are a little bit divided sometimes, I feel, about it, but the majority of people really prioritizes them. And so playing around it with a tank plus something that can one-shot mid lane is really, really efficient. And yeah, that's something that Soren and Froggy might also do today. But we see Jackson Maokai locked in and Lucianami classics things for GAM.
Yeah, previously to this, GAM had run 2 games of Lucian Melio for Pyshiro and Elio. By the way, new additions to the GAM roster in Blazes, Pyshiro and Elio. Pyshiro, one of my favorite players. I've been talking about Yo for literally 3 years, finally getting his chance at the big stage last year on Cerberus, and now on GAM. Currently the only player in the entire league that has a perfect KDA, didn't die at all during their last series that they played, which is pretty cool, against Wales, one of our better teams. So that's an exciting prospect. Here with the Lucian Nami is going to be a little bit of a different look. We'll see if he's able to continue that dominance in some capacity. But nothing absolutely out of the ordinary here. Not defending their top lane. Oh, my apologies. They defended their top lane Jax a little bit with maybe the Gragas ban, but also taking out to make sure there's no Brand grab. Leaves the Rel. There's like 3 champions that I see as being like the best of the Void Grub grabbers, which is like Brand is number one, Nocturne, and then the Rel because of all the AoE that she brings to the table. Outside of that, I mean, who do you really bring into this? You know, they already have the Maokai, which is a strong champion, but what do you round this composition out with now?
I mean, you kind of need some AP on top side. So, yeah, the question is what fits good into Jax that brings kind of the AP with you that also generates prio, because you want to take that Void Grubs with the Rel, and I feel it's like the Maokai is going to turn into bot side. We have Vi locked in for MBE. So we have Senna Maokai, I feel like, in bot lane. This would be another creative approach. And it's the Mordekaiser that's going to be locked in for a game. So something that can generate... Oh no, it's not going to be the Mordekaiser. They're proving me wrong once again. Yeah, but I feel like I have a problem with GAM's composition. You have to play into bot lane. Like, there is no way you're playing into top side here with GAM's composition, even though you want to grab Void Grubs. Like, Cassandra versus Jax is not a matchup that you really want to play into. On the other hand, Lucian Nami is a lane. Like, Lucian Nami without jungle pressure feels like wasted potential. So in the end, GAM needs to stomp about their bot lane, and you always said it, Peshiro, the only player without a death, is someone that you can trust playing those games and maybe carrying those games. So in the end, maybe that's GAM's plan. Maybe not playing around those Void Grubs too much and more caring about bot lane.
Yeah, there's a few other really weird things that I think popped up here. Again, something that, you know, Blue, I'm going to call them Blue, but MGN Blue, they had a really interesting little kind of sideline there, because you have the Maokai, which is expected to be jungle the vast majority of the time. You don't really see it top, you don't see it mid all that often. Sometimes it goes to support. Well, they flex its support for the opportunity to go TF Vi, which has to be some of the most intense single target CC option that I've ever seen. But this comes at the cost of Lucian Nami is now playing into a Maokai support, probably not the greatest lane of all time, but they decided that they wanted the Vi effectively, and they get the single target route no matter what on the Maokai. They still have the ultimate. There's still quite a bit of value there. But the focus, it seems like, from the side of MGN Blue is really to, you know, put down a bunch of single target damage and CC onto this Lucian, onto this Tristana if they become threats. Is that a problem to you? Again, let's transpose a lot of the early game, like we'll talk about the Void Grub traded for Dragon, as we jump onto the Rift here for MGN Blue versus the side of GAM Esports. You know, do they have a way to handle two ADCs if Blazes and Pyshro, the two newest additions to the squad, end up having a little bit of a pop-off moment?
I mean, you have insane pick pressure on the side of MBE, right? You can just pick one out and maybe snowball around those TFI combination. When Y gets fed in the early game, it's always a problem for the ADC to get away from that. As you already said, you have like this insta CC on one target. You have Maokai that can have the single target route. You have the ultimate that is also a long range engage, and yeah, it feels like you have this CC on one target, and if you get the shutdown on the ADC that's performing better in a way, it can be really good. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be messy, and if GAM can scale on this game fairly well and go to late game, it might be a little bit rough to take out both AD carries in the same situations, right?
Yeah. This is where, like, I almost wish they had something a little bit more damage heavy in top lane, and they had gone for something like Galio out of mid lane, so you have the Vi Galio to drop on top of the head of one of these ADCs, or maybe even just, like, zone out one ADC from the other one so they can't protect one another. And then you have something more damage intensive than a Jax. I worry without a bunch of AoE damage, there's a legitimate threat that, like, even Kiaya could end up being a problem for them that they might not have a solution for. But we'll see as they go through. We're just starting off things. So let's get your opinion on this, because I know you were talking about this back and forth between the two. What do you think about this Void Grubs versus First Dragon kind of talk? What's your preference?
I feel like if you're able to hit turret, if you're able as a team to generate prio and hit turret, Void Grubs are really, really broken. If you're unable to hit turret, if you're in lanes that are more pushed in, Void Grubs seem a little bit meh at times. Still, it's good to not give your enemy that has prio them. But it feels like if you have prio, if you generate good priority, if you can hit turrets, Void Grubs are really, really strong, and then you should prioritize taking them. Okay. And we have the first invade here from Levi.
Yeah, a little bit of interaction. Levi on the Rel, taking a bit of a fight up against Sorn, who's going to go back in. There's no support coming in from the TF anytime soon, but Rel obviously doesn't have a bunch of damage. Sorn has to flash as the support of Blazes is here. Basically, the whole Raptor camp just got taken by Levi in a single hit. He's just going to continue auto-attacking. Sorn is getting a little feisty, but he can't really have anything in this fight because Blazes has mid-wave prio. And as a result, Levi's going to be able to kind of walk in, just hold out a bag and rob him in front of his entire jungle. I mean, everybody there was just like, we can't do anything about this. So Sorn loses a camp, going to lose his bottom, Krugs as well, before Levi gets to go finish his bottom side. He's just going to be up a clean 2 camps now.
Yeah, we might be able to see a dive already here on bot side. We have the Lucianami, we have the Rel with Aftershock, if I see this right. She can tank a lot of damage in those situations, especially if she gets the W back. Zodiac and Style, you're maybe in danger.
Oh, wow, okay, a little bit of play. Again, the Maokai not under too much threat. Levi's going to take a little bit of damage. Nice bubble from Elio to make sure there's no follow-up as Ryu casts a TP. And it's a dive attempt. I don't know if they're actually fully committing to this in any particular circumstance, but they do get a couple of things. They get the heal, they get the flash, they get the exhaust, they get a TP at a Ryuk. I mean, they're kind of just holding up, MGN Blue at gunpoint, and they say, hey, give us all your summoner spells, and it's working out in this early game.
Yeah, it certainly works out. We have a lot of summoners already burnt here from Senna gone, Maokai also both summoners down. We have a TP that had to come in, so that wave also got crashed by Kia. So in the end, we are 500 gold ahead without basically anything happening.
Yeah.
In the end, it's only Levi's invade plus whatever is happening on bot side with CS. You get some CS down on top side because Rio had to TP, and yeah, in the end, it seems like a bit of we want to outplay them on a macro level. The next Drake is going to spawn, and we see Levi. First Drake is going to spawn, and Levi pathing into bot side might be there to fight us. And I feel like GAM should play around this Drake because you have priority on mid lane. Tristana against TF should be really easy to generate priority. You have to reset from Blazes now, so you can TP back, generate prio, and go into the Drake area. Also, bot lane has prio. Lucianami is known for this. And we already see the movement from your bot lane towards the Drake, but Levi is on the top side and on Void Grubs.
Yeah. I think having spotted that the Raptors got taken, knew Sorn was on top side, but since you've got push in mid, you have the back from TF, you've got this little roam coming through from Elio. They're planning on this. It's crazy to me because from all the regions I've watched, I don't think I've seen more times of somebody getting not only the Void Grubs, but also First Dragon in any region except this one. This early game snowball of the map sometimes is just so significant that it really does quite a bit of damage. I think 2 or 3 teams now have had the opportunity to get both the Void Grubs and the Dragons, so maybe we don't even have to have the discussion of which one's better if GAM's just going to be able to pilfer both away from their opposition here.
Yeah, and Lucianami kind of enables this because you have so hyper prio. Like, look at those CS stats on bot lane. Like, you have so much hyper prio, you can drop 1 or 2 CS, and maybe if that's something you have to do to support your jungler there. And in the end, it's GAM getting both now, really, because, like, Senna Maokai with those itemizations can't fight into that. Also, like, Tristana is going to have priority on TF. TF only has Bladed Steel Caps, so no way he fights onto that. Yeah, and in the end, it's going to be both. And that's a result of the hyper prio that GAM is generating in those early game situations here. Like, Tristana always pushing into the turret. The same goes, obviously, for the Lucianami. And so in the end, Levi is going to take that Drake with Blaze's help.
Yeah, the composition for MGN Blue, I'm just going to start calling them Blue because I can't keep doing this MGN Blue stuff because I'm going to call them Box at some point anyway, which is just not the right thing. So I'm going to call them Blue from now on, which is MBE. I guess MBE is also not a bad idea here. So MBE, they're drafting for level 6 and beyond because they've got like Vi Ultimate and they've got, Froggy's Roam with the Twisted Fate to be able to fight for Ryuk, who has quite a bit of good setup. I mean, the QE is a really, really good stun setup. And then obviously on the bottom side, Flash W for Maokai is going to be able to help set up quite a bit as well. But pre-6, again, it's a little bit difficult. Their damage is kind of low. Their damage is very single target oriented. There's a lot of problems with the composition that make it difficult, I think, for them to really have this massive contention. And like you said, again, with this hyper priority of like, Lucianami on the bottom side, even the Tristana's pushing power in the mid lane against the Twisted Fate is not the easiest for them to deal with. So With any luck, they'll be able to start competing, after this first round of objectives has been driven off the map. It just means that GAM gets to walk out of the early game with a lot of dominance, 600 gold advantage. The thing I'm looking for, there is not an ADC anywhere in this entire region that understands the meta at bot lane where you buy second support item, except for Paishiro, which I think is the main reason he is dominating a bunch of our other competition, because he's the only one that seems to realize, hey, if I buy this, I'm also amazing. His top lane, we get a bit of a gank, ultimate immediately onto Ryuk to have Kiaya get some additional damage. Froggy's here with the gold card. He's going to do something. Ryuk took quite a bit, but I think his days are numbered here, as Kiaya is going to be able to drop a little bit more damage. Tries to slide out, but that's a great ultimate to the top lane, and that is the level 6 power spike we were looking for from the side of MBE.
Yeah, that's exactly what MBE has to do with their team composition. Roaming with those TF ultimate into side lane. Froggy also has TP backup, so he can defend this Tristana in mid lane. I mean, Blaze is going to get one plating, but if you leave lane against Tristana, that's an obvious problem here. Levi on the bot side, meanwhile, getting Zodiac. But that's just like some little scuffle, and we see the Void Grubs coming through here.
Oh, okay. Ultimate's going to get blocked. Ultimate from Paishiro also going to do quite a bit of damage to the Maokai. Has to slip out from tower range, so Levi's going to clean up that kill. Styles here. Soren is also here, so they're probably not going to be able to do too much. They do deny quite a few of the minions away from the person who's farming on bottom side. Style cannot take all of these minions, because if he does, he's going to ruin his support itemization. So that's just a good dive. Little play into the top side. We get a chance to look at the replay here. As, again, it's just a straight-up scrap between Kiaya and Ryuk. The positioning of Ryuk was good because he couldn't be ulted through the wall to get him away from Froggy. Just a little well-played positioning from Ryuk there.
Yeah, and then once again, as we said, you need to wait till those level 6 power spikes, and once you have those on the side of MBE, you can fight it. It's no problem for you to take those skirmish situations. Tristana is going to get plating Smith. There's no question about it. But yeah, TF has to be in sideline at some point.
I'm really liking this little rotation because they put Paishiro Elio in mid lane so they could try to compete for second or probably a 4th, 5th, and 6th Void Grub, but Levi decides to call that off. Soren's here on his lonesome. Both bot lanes are in mid. Both top laners are kind of in the same position. All they need is, if they can get one, they have advantage. If they can get 2 of these, they're feeling great. Wow! They just walk in and auto-attack one of them to death. If they get a 5th, they get the little grublings, which is really the main thing they care about. They also might get a little fight here. Zodiac goes into the backline. Elio's going to be able to grid it. There's at least one additional grub. Ultimate into the backline as well. Soren's going to get driven out. Kiaya with the ultimate in the front line doing quite a bit to Ryuk as Elio is going to go down. Paishiro chasing a kill against Soren is not going to be here for the remainder of the fight as Kiaya is just scrapping in the pit. Zodiac's got nothing to do, though, to be able to protect his top laner. As a 3rd Void Grub of this set is going to go down in the midst of all of the fighting, and 2 for 1 as Paishiro is able to clean up an additional kill against Zodiac, and just like that, GAM is going to be up an additional kill, which is about 1,000 gold advantage, and they got all 6 grubs from this early game here.
They got all 6 grubs first Drake, and like the lead for GAM isn't only the goal, go to gold at this point, because you got basically every objective in the match, there was the most. This was like really massive fight we're seeing here. Levi is still on the Void Grubs, and now like the whole cavalry is going. Elio flashes into that. The Maokai is in the backline, so Paishiro needs to dash away. Then a great ult from Levi. Soren ulting the Nami, probably also not the best of choice. Elio is going to be sold off completely in that fight. Here's the most thankful support I can imagine. And then it's only a Zodiac in the pit. Can't really contest anything, and it's all the Void Grubs to GAM. And yeah, at the end of the year, we might have another thing coming true once again. Every VCS team is playing the whole year just for GAM to win another title. So in the end, really messy fight, but GAM coming out on top with the Void Grubs, and the next Drake will also be theirs, I feel like.
Yeah, it's really funny because if you went back and you watched a lot of the VCS from last year, you would know Blazes had some good performances on what was SGB, what is now Viking Esports, and Paishiro was one of the main reasons that Cerberus actually had a really good late game push or late season push to be a top 4 team to get into playoffs. If it were a 4-team playoffs, they actually made it over top of Saigon Buffalo last year, which was crazy. That's going to be another dragon take as Levi's able to grab that one. Zodiac presses the ultimate button to be able to do something. They're all stuck in the pit. Levi Levi might get brought down, but there's a lot of cavalry behind him as Soren's going to be running in. He's going to try to get something. Pyshiro is going to finally go down for the first time. Let's see if they've got enough firepower to make this happen as Blazes is going to get a little bit of healing. Oh, Blazes jumps over the pit to make sure he doesn't take additional damage. It might just bail from this one as Elio is left to the wolves. As, you know, MBE, they do a good job in this, like, fight. They were in the pit. I was worried about their prospects, but unfortunately, GAM just doesn't have the damage to rip through them. It is another neutral objective to GAM, but, you know, MBE walk away with the fight.
Yeah, at least they get to fight and something in this, at some footing in this game. Because, like, MBE falls behind and behind in this game, it feels like, without any sort of fight that they have against them. Yeah, but yeah, that's the first kind of moment they're having here. And like Elio, I don't know. If I would be Elio, I would feel like, guys, can we not let me die every fight? Because like he's been left alone like every fight. Levi, like the fight really looks good for GAM. Levi is living for hours. And then like Soren and also Zodiac going down, Pyshiro dying for the first time, you already said it. Blazes with this wild jump onto Style, who has a great ultimate, but there's no vision in that brush, so Style can't get gunned down by the bomb from the Tristana, and in the end it's Elio. Even going down, because like, I don't know, I wouldn't be the happiest support in this case, but like Elio should be fine with it. In the end, the neutral objective goes to GAM, and we have the next fight. Like, it's VCS, you know?
They are already ready.
Fighting is the thing.
Yeah, let's go. All right, I'm here for it. Let's see what happens as Rift Herald. Honestly, if I'm GAM, you got to get your feet set at some point. You got to play the map at some point. They're doing okay. They're going to try to get in. That's going to be a take from the Vi. So they're going to jump back onto Levi. Levi most likely going to go down here. As he's stuck in what is dubbed poopy pants mode here in the VCS. That's the best way we can call it. This is traded for pressure on the bot side as Blazes was able to get away. So MBN gets a kill, gets their first objective of the game. The trade-off, of course, is bot lane pushing power here for the Kraken Slayer Tristana, getting her just a little bit further ahead than they were where they've been.
Yeah, you have to pushing power from the Tristana that gets the turret, and there's a lot of turret damage. Might be even another one that's also the power of the Void Grubs that you're having there. But now Blazes have to be cautious because Zodiac and also Froggy are there.
Yeah, everybody's here actually. The reinforcements have arrived here, unfortunately, as Blazes is gonna get his card pulled. GAM's mid laner gets swarmed by the side of MBE. Now, again, Pyshiro Elio immediately pushing in the mid lane to try to get some additional punishment. Senna is going to be able to clean this up, make sure this isn't coming around for too quick. But GAM slowly have kind of fallen off just a touch. Their very initial early game, they played very aggressively to try to find as many neutral objectives. And yes, they're up 2 dragons and all the Void Grubs. But slowly, MBE have kind of got themselves back in this game. They're playing this level 6 kind of pick strategy very, very effectively. This is Kiaya scrapping against Ryuk on the top side. That is... wow, that is a lot of damage coming out of this very tanky K'Sante who went for magic resist to begin with.
Yeah, you know, it's K'Sante. We know them, we love them. And in the end, Kia getting the trade kill onto Ryuk. Especially wild because Ryuk also got the first blood onto Kia after the great roam from Froggy. So it's wild that Kia still wins the side lane with the K'Sante because Jax, once they get ahead, normally is a champion that can run away with the game, but Kia is doing a really, really good job holding him back here. Yeah, and now we have to see, like, how is MBE going to transition their team comp into late game? Because if you can't shut down both AD carries, you might have a problem. But here would be a fight. We have numbers advantage for MBE.
Biggest thing is in a bit of time here, obviously Pyshiro is going to have Blood Song readily available, probably going to go towards Rapid Fire Cannon, maybe into Cyclo Sword, although there's quite a bit of tankiness, so maybe you just ditch the Cyclo Sword altogether. Upsetting to me, it's my favorite new item, but maybe necessary here for GAM's ADC. The bigger thing is that Blazes is also doing very good, so for this mid game, once Pyshiro hits this Blood Song, is going to be an absolute monster, be able to carry fights, but Blazes is no slouch himself, so the Kraken Slayer down fight being looked at, ultimate from Maokai side dropped, going to catch a couple of members. Soren gets driven out of the fight. Now Levi's looking for something. Flash Q gets a lot with the crash down and everything else kind of coming together. And it is the side of MBE who are not able to make a response happen. That's Soren flashing in, able to find a little bit of something against Pyshiro. He's going to go over the wall alongside Elio. They're going to be able to get out of that fight. Now the 3 remaining members of GAM are looking for something. Style flashes away to make sure Blazes doesn't get a reset in any capacity. Is Kiaya the only healthy enough to really get anything done? Soren's going to be able to go back in with the Q, find an additional kill against the mid laner. As Kiaya, he's still scrapping. Does he have the damage to make anything happen? I don't think he does. He's going to have to walk away. Rift Herald now going to get dropped in the mid lane for MBE. As Dragon is still on the table for both these teams, it looks like the remaining members of GAM are maybe thinking about it. Froggy trying to poke out at this team, make sure they can't get anything. No, GAM's just going to get driven off. That's going to be the tower in mid lane and probably the Dragon, as MBE have really come into their own in this game.
Yeah, MBE really shows off in those fights. Like, I don't know, the pick comp really works. We had a great fight from Sorn, I have to say. Waited a long time to use that ultimate and then splitting the whole backline in 2 pieces. We ask ourselves, how are they going to fight against 2 AD carries with their team composition, with this pick comp? But Sorn plays this so good. So patient. We see Pyshiro overcommits here. Jump out from Blazes. Pyshiro, no dash. And then there comes Sorn from the side, flashes in, gets the knock up onto Pyshiro. Both AD carries out of the fight. And in the end, that's it. That's gone. Like, if you have this kind of patience from Sorn's side, you basically win the fight. Blazes then also dies. And yeah, in the end, Kiaya can't really do much fight win for MBE, and with that also Drake and midlane turret, you already said it.
Yeah, it's feeling very heavily like in these team fights, GAM is having their decisiveness really tested by the side of MBE. The MBE is so good. To me, it's a lot of communication by Sorn. Sorn is a veteran jungler. He wasn't really with a home in the previous last couple of splits. Last year, kind of moved into Box Esports back when they were Box Esports and not MBE. And honestly, was doing an okay job. They started bringing in more veterans like Ryuk, and now they brought in Froggy and Style. And Sorn is looking so much more comfortable than I think we've seen from the last couple of years. It's been a while since we saw any amount of Sorn dominance, but in this game, his decisiveness, his ability to make these engages happen has really been impressive. As Froggy and Ryuk are trying to put damage down on Kiai, but he's just kind of standing here taking it. Has to TP out just to defend the tower as Blazes continues this pushing dominance. These Void Grubs Tristana is get really, really big menace in the side lane, and it warrants quite a bit of attention.
Yeah, sometimes it's also like, if you have a great shot-calling jungler playing with veterans, they really show off. And now it's like, once again, Blazes on the side lane, getting killed, and that might or even be Nash for MBE. They have the position at the objective.
The tough one.
Or they're just looking for the fight. Blazes, for the 3rd time in a row, getting caught on side lane. And that's not really good, because you need to have this pushing Tristana as a threat, but if Blazes always pushes and dies like my solo queue top laners, then this is not going to end well.
No, that's a bit of a rough one there, as GAM's mid laner is trying to scrap some gold, trying to help use this Void Grubs to have some presence on the map. The thing it's not purchasing is it feels like there's no push anywhere else. Again, if you set up maybe a mid lane push and you end up getting mid tower off of all of that pressure gauge dropped on top of Blazes, that's one thing, but Pyshiro and Elio were not ready either on their own volition or because it's not communicated effectively. And so Blazes just costing his team a little bit more damage as well. It's not the biggest deal in the world. Pyshiro actually just hit a massive power spike because he went for Quick Blades alongside the Storm Razor and now has Blood Song as well. So this is about as powerful as Lucian is ever going to feel inside of this game. If you're going to start taking big fights on the side of GAM, you're going to start doing it soon. You have double resistance items done now for your 2 tanks as well. So you're feeling great about the position you're in this game. It's just a question of whether or not you can now execute on your fights, given that the single target lockdown from MBE has been so good. And like you said, now Baron has to be under consideration for both these squads. Every time that you lose somebody, Blazes can't be openly pushing into nowhere and going down anymore, because one big pick could mean a very big difference in this game.
Yeah, you already said it. I feel like it's a little bit of a communication issue for GAM. I mean, they have 3 new players in their team, and like sometimes you need a little bit of time, but first of all, there's a fight.
Nicely played. Okay, Maokai is going to pop the ultimate. It gets blocked out very effectively. That's a lot of damage dropped into a very big cluster. Ryuk from the side is going to do quite a bit. His Blaze is going to go down. Paishiro is the only damage dealer remaining. Is also going to go down. His Style is able to do quite a bit of work right there. And Gam is routed once again. Kiaya is still up in this fight. Could still have the damage to maybe get through enough. But no, there's too many members on the side of MBE. And they win again. It's insane. What is happening?
It's MBE fighting supremacy from relegation to having this over team fight against GAM. Like, what is happening right now? Style with a insane positioning. Also, Rio coming out of the fog of war, getting this insane engage on the backline. And I feel like GAM is not on the same page here. Like, I don't know. They're feeling so disconnected in those fights. Like, you have those situations with Blaze where he's on side lane, he doesn't really communicate with the wave syncing of their teams, and now, I mean, they get a great engage on Zorn. He's basically out of this fight, has to flash, has to get a heal, but then they completely ignore Style and Ryuk. They're full life in this backline, and they are playing this so insane in the team fights. Like, they know how to position, they know how to handle their timings. And yeah, in the end, Style and Rio, great positioning, and yeah, a great timing on the engage. And GAM doesn't really have to do can do anything against us.
And this is where I think the problem ends up lying is, well, I had a problem with MBE having these very single target focused kind of damage dealers and being like, oh, it would have been nice to see a little bit more damage kind of AoE, have something kind of more. The same problem exists for GAM where Blazes and Paishiro very single target oriented. There's no way to kind of clean up fights. And as a result, Blazes, when he gets shut down in fights, basically just gets nothing done. Paishiro's then the primary damage dealer with no response. And as a result, you run into problems like you saw in that last fight where there was just no way to get anything done. That being said, top lane, great pushing from Blazes, gets 2 towers, gets the inhibitor tower as well, so the first one to crack the base. So again, the side lane pressure from the Tristana is still being felt effectively. And while, yes, MBE does have quite a few things going for them right now. I mean, they got a 3-item almost rapid fire cannon for 4th item Twisted Fate out of the mid lane. Their Senna's feeling very good and very well itemized, as well as this Jax really starting to come into his own. There are still 2 marksmen on the opposite team you do have to worry about a little bit. You cannot take GAM for granted, but MBE are now the driving force behind this game.
Yeah, especially in those fights. I feel like, as I said, GAM seems a little disconnected, which sometimes happens when you change something in your roster and when you're getting new players in, because they need some time to get into the environment. You need some time to build up synergy as a team. But this disconnection feels a little bit scary, especially for team fights. And also, like, once again, Blazes with his roams with his advantages on side lane while the waves aren't synced. That's something usually happening to disconnected teams, but now we have a fight again.
Underneath the tower this time. Ryuk's going to be way out front. There's no follow-up. Yeah, Ryuk's basically dead to start with, and that was about as disastrous as that could have gone. Blaze is going to jump in immediately. Zodiac is going to lock him down. Now Soren's alone on the backline with no assistance. Paishiro is still doing fine. Blaze is still doing fine on the backline, and now this is where the GAM composition is really going to dominate, is as soon as they have the ability to kind of pick one target at a time out in front line. I mean, that's all you needed. That was disconnection from MBE. They weren't sure if they were diving. They weren't sure if they were pushing past anything, and as a result, GAM immediately collapses on the opportunity.
Yeah, especially, like, why would you go further there? Like, you got your tier 2 turret, and that's basically it. Like, that's basically what you came for. Like, you get the tier 2 turret, we see it here. The Maokai ultimate is great. You zone away the people from the turret, Levi is in there, and like, Ryuk now gets the stun onto Levi. You get the tier 2 turret. And if you go out of the fight there, maybe sacrifice your top laner, it's great. But you decide to go in once again after Ryuk already died. And yeah, it feels like an overcommit situation where you overplayed your hand because you won the first few fights. Blaze is also with a psychopath jump forward, but it survives this one. Yeah, and it feels like MBE just feeling themselves a little bit too much there. Like, do you really believe in your own hype that much? And they just screamed yes and died.
Another really big problem I had, I think there were two members. Again, I was praising him just a second ago, so I'm going to take a second to flame a decision right there. Sorn had a moment where he could have maybe ulted alongside, Froggy jumping in with a gold card, throwing a Q, and getting enough damage down to kill at least one member of GAM at the front of that fight, maybe even two members, because two were sitting in front of him with half health. Instead, decided to lock down Paishiro with the ultimate, thus, not doing enough damage, not really having that much CC, and it didn't buy enough time for Froggy to step up and do enough damage to kill any of the members that were low. That's what caused Sorn's death, and it also is the reason why Paishiro was able to keep fighting and why those two members were allowed to keep fighting in that fight. Again, if you end up just kind of cutting your losses, fighting for the two that you could get, and then letting Paishiro kind of clean up Sorn on the backside, that fight probably looks very different. Instead, they get a little greedy and they say, hey, maybe we've got the damage to go through all of this. Twisted Fate's not going to carry your AoE, right? He's not a Victor. He's not like a big kind of AoE damage champion. And as a result, that fight was a little bit too rough. Sorn, again, on the front line, again, Zodiac, he's been able to stall a lot longer on the Maokai. That's a big play from Ryuk, as he could immediately find Paishiro. That's going to be big. Ryuk tries to jump back in. He's taken quite a bit of damage. Blazes is still up, so you still have to respect the damage from the side of GAM. But fortunately, it's just a 1-for-1 here. Kiaya is very menacing inside of this fight himself. So he's going to go back in and then do WQ. That's a lot. Style is going to get picked up in the middle of this one. He has to be killed. There we go. Kiaya is going to be kept alive by Elio on the backline, and Blazes gets to run through the remainder of this team, as that's everyone on the side of MBE going down. Unbelievable here.
Yeah, and that's Kiaya and Levi calling, I don't want to lose this game. That's like, they really don't wanna run away with a loss here. Great play by those two carries. Like, Paishiro dying very early in this fight is a little bit unfortunate, but you get 2 kills in return because Kiaya is chilling in the backline, like, I don't know, damage is tickling or something because it's Kesante for some reason. And in the end, that's the big fight win that GAM needed. That's the big win. They really need to get this Nash going. And now with Void Grubs and Nash, that's a really scary situation for MBE. We have the gold lead for GAM once again in this game. And that's the situation that, yeah, GAM wanted to play for. We're watching this fight once again. Soren is going to be get chunked out by the ultimate. Also, the Maokai ult, not great. Another psychopath jump here in from Blazes, but in the end, it's safe to do this because you have more than enough damage to kill the backline. Ryuk then always does the best thing he can do, jumps onto the enemy AD carry, gets the kill. But now also MBE is too slow to get out of the area. Style is frontlining somehow. And in the end, GAM on the chase. Kiaya with a great engage together with Levi, calling GAM in this fight, and really wants to get this Nash buff for that team.
Yeah. What's cool is I really liked the way that GAM has began taking these fights against the side of MBE. MBE in the middle of the game, they started using the single target, started fighting in open space. They were looking great, right? GAM in the last 2 fights have taken much better terrain battles where there's a tower or there's a wall in the way. And if you notice, how many ways does the side of MBE have to cross walls? Well, they can cross it with like Sorn and Ryuk pretty much on command. They cannot with Froggy and with Style, and Zodiac has a much harder time doing that as well. Now these last 2 fights with this terrain in the way has made it much harder to follow up. Wow, that's a dead Zodiac on my screen, with mid tower also going down. Sorn has also just caught himself in a really bad position on the front line. That's disastrous. I mean, 2 members down already. They got full health on pretty much everybody. That's Void Grubs and Baron. I mean, this is probably just dead. Blazes is going to be able to tear through these towers as GAM just capitalizes so quickly of the blood in the water like a shark.
Yeah, GAM was not clean in this game, to say the least.
Jumping in. Wow, he's just dead. And now Froggy's getting gunned down by Blazes as well, acting like an assassin in the backline is GAM. Was there ever really a question? There was a minute there where MBE was looking like they were going to take the game, but GAM, they quell any problems we might have, and they're going to take the game number 1.
Yeah, they weren't clean, but in the end, does it matter if you win clean, if you win? Like, they played out their comp really well, and once they got into those front-to-back fights, there wasn't really a question about who is going to get this game, because, like, yes, we had the moments for MBE where they looked great, where they had this pick comp kind of working, and then they overcommitted at this tier 2 turret fight, which really was the turning point of the game. Afterwards, GAM had another great front to back fight at the Drake, and could get Nash and ended with 6 white drops plus Nash. That's just disgusting turret damage you have, and for the final push, nothing can really stop this.
Yeah, given that we weren't really expecting MBE to have the greatest results of the season, again, they came in as a promotion team. Obviously, they were in last season. They were the worst team in last season. And they come in as probably our 7th best team is what we would expect them to do. That was a hell of a performance. They bring in a couple veterans. Decision-making from Soren was amazing. And honestly, this team's pick potential at the beginning, they played to it very effectively. That was a bit of a game here as GAM got tested a little more than maybe they were expecting. Do you kind of anticipate more of that for game number 2? Do you think GAM's going to get driven into the same area? Was it just a draft thing for Box Esports to be able to do some damage to GAM in the mid game?
Yeah, I feel like MBE had like a draft that really worked out in certain areas, and if they draft in a certain way again, they might be able to do it again, because like we saw them play Sign Elise and stuff like this, where they just play, hey, we get kills mid lane with our tank plus assassin jungler, and afterwards roam into the side lanes. And that's something they should pursue again, because in those areas they look great. Like in the moments where they just could play jungle and mid into side lane, they look good, but they had this hyper prio on every lane against them, which was a huge problem. Like Lucian Nami was a factor in this game. They might ban one of those champions, because like you can't really do anything against like this pressure pouring into bot lane and also into mid lane with the Tristana. Yeah, and in the end, that were the huge problems for MBE in this game, and I feel like they should adjust some things in the draft to, really not fall into the same patterns again.
Yeah, you can see from the end game screen, at least a little bit. I mean, you've got like Tristana had some insane damage. Blazes obviously was kind of popping off in that one. Pyshiro again was doing some pretty solid work, especially with that ultimate against the front line. Like when they were calling shots, they were doing well. I actually don't know. The thing about this like MVP vote is like I don't know who I would have given this to if I had to make that decision. Like that was so hard. Kiaya was living forever in fights and doing a bunch of damage on the front line. Casante, he was probably the most consistent player through that entire game. So I don't think I could disagree with their decision. But I'm glad I didn't have to make it. One way or another, we're going to be jumping into game number 2. We're hoping for a best of 3 that goes to 3 games at some point, because we'd really like to see this one-on-one decision maker for map number 3. We'll see if that's going to happen in this series between GAM and MBE. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Back, everybody, to our first or second day now here in the second week of VCS 2024 Spring. We had an amazing first game between GAM and MBE, where MBE was able to do quite a bit of work pressuring GAM out, taking a kill off of their ADC for the first time they split, not just once, but twice or 3 times, or I don't know how many times it was. But GAM inevitably is going to end up taking the game as they do in typical GAM fashion, despite some of that mid-game domination from the side of MBE. Let's see if they can fix it up for our game number 2. What do you think right here, Akama? Like, how do we get to see our 1v1 decider for our best of 3 here?
I feel like give Ryuk the Jax 100%. Give him the Jax again. Like, this looked so great. Or in general, champion with whom he can play those flanks, because like the team fight wins that MBE had laid for 90% on Ryuk and their jungle buy. Like, if you give them champions that can flank the backline and go into that, then I feel like MBA has a chance, but it's still GAM, right? In the end, GAM is probably the team to beat together with Team Whale, but GAM beat Team Whale, so we're questioning this week, and have to wait until their next phase off to answer this question correctly. But I feel like if you have something that can engage in GAM's backline, and you can play those flanks, then we have a chance of MBE. They have to force a little bit of chaos into those team fights. I feel like front to back is something that is really skill dependent to play. And if you're in the weaker team skill dependent, then it should always fall to GAM, in my opinion.
Yeah. We also haven't really seen GAM deviate too much from some of their game planning. They've been able to play, relatively similar compositions. And again, this Lucian has been something they've really, really built upon on the bottom side of the map. And I wonder if, MBE are going to have a way to drive them off that in some capacity. If you're GAM, obviously that mid game was a bit rough, but that was kind of the whole intention. They weathered the storm long enough where MBE wasn't able to continue their gold lead. And once they kind of lost that, everything was doomed here from the side of MBE. GAM was able to kind of take over. And so I kind of want to see them not only have this diver for Ryuk, which was really good. I honestly kind of want to see the Renekton, as that's the OG Ryuk play. But if it's not that, no matter what it is, having Ryuk on something he can flank with really effectively, but more specifically, getting GAM out of their comfort, because it seems like GAM has been able to go back to this Lucian a number of times, go back to similar champions. I kind of want to see them have to adapt to the meta. This is something that GAM has been criminal about for the last 6 years, is just like they seem so meta resilient, where it's like it doesn't matter what the meta is, they're playing whatever they want, and taking them out of it doesn't really do all that much because they just go back to defaulting to their favorite champions. And it would be nice to see a team really force their hand and say, hey, we're going to take away all of your favorites very quickly, and you're going to have to come up with something very new.
Yeah, GAM is a comfort team, right? And that's something that's sometimes also plays in the cards of different teams on the international stage. That's maybe why GAM not having the international success in comparison to the regional success that they're facing in VCS. But yeah, you already said it. Push them into something that's out of their comfort zone, and maybe draft a bot lane that has priority over them. Because like, if you manage, you need to ban Lucian or Nami here, right? Like, Lucian Nami worked so well in this game. Like, you need to ban either of those. Like, I feel like the whole reasoning why GAM really had those priorities and had the opportunity to grab every objective in the early game was Lucian Nami. And everything centered around the priority that they could generate here. But yeah, force them into something that maybe has to chill under turret and scale a little bit. Force them into something that doesn't have that much playmaking potential. Yeah, but let's see. Maybe MBE is able to do that. Maybe not. I'm a little bit optimistic about the drafting, but I feel like take Yeah, take it into your own hands to win this game, and not push it into GAM to make a mistake, because they won't do they won't do mistakes on the level that you can stop them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what's funny, actually? Going back to when Pyshiro and Elio were actually on Cerberus, which wasn't their permanent kind of setup. They ended up swapping supports midway into the split. But back when Pyshiro and Elio were the bot lane pairing for Cerberus in the previous split, they actually were pretty bad in the laning phase. Like, it was very common for them to go down 20, 30 CS. It was very common for them to not really have a bunch of presence. And it wasn't until hyper late game team fighting that this pair really came online. So it's a bit of development to see Pyshiro Elio really kind of step up into a role where they have this Lucian and this something else to be able to dominate their opposition. Funny enough, you know, our resident Senna expert, Yulwei, who's doing production, everybody wave hi if you can to say hi to Yulwei, one of our greatest members, was very adamant about Styles' lack of Senna ability this last game. He was quite agitated at not only the soul count, but also a couple of the team fights. And they're going right back to it. Obviously, Style and Zodiac tend to prefer something like this. Zodiac gets freed up to play a lot of different champions. We weren't in love with the Maokai last game, obviously, but it does open up for, you know, plenty of other options if they decide to get a little more frisky than what they did in the previous.
Yeah, I really dislike the Senna pick, actually. I don't know, like, it felt so rough, and you're enabling the GAM to just go back to what they played last game. And we thought about it, push them out of their comfort zone, get something that has priority over them. But currently you're just redoing the same drafting once again. No, the Rel was picked later in that stage, but you're like kinda redoing the same drafting thing again. You have ran a Rel plus Tristana in mid jungle again. I like the Nautilus certainly more than I like the Maokai, probably. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really adamant about just rewinding a similar draft once again for MBE, because it did not work out. Once they got the priorities onto the lanes, it was just rough to see how MBE was always on the back foot going into those objective fights. And I really love the Jax for Ryuk, but currently Senna Nautilus, I'm not the biggest fan.
I'm super curious about how much flexibility MBE has with these champions. Something is amiss in the air, and I'm sniffing something like Nautilus mid lane. I mean, with Hollowed Radiance, you can basically make any tank work, and mid Nautilus is already something that had some practice way back in the day. You know, going back to like you know, even like LPL and things like that. And so I'm curious if Froggy would be willing to grab that. Not to mention, I don't know if you knew this, the new items on Jax make him like a disgusting jungler. The Titanic Hydra, you know, like I can't remember what the spear is called, but it's like the Sundered Sky. Sundered Sky. They make like this champion into something completely different in the jungle, and so they have a little bit of flexibility if they want to move these champions around a little bit. Whereas GAM is sticking to their stones, and they're saying, okay, we're going back to what worked for us in the previous game. Kiaya was a beast. He won an MVP last game. Levi's playing this Rel, again, really good at taking Void Grubs, good at being a team fighter. And Blazes is like a known Tristana player from even last year when he was playing on Saigon Buffalo and being a beast there. So kind of awesome to see that one come through.
Yeah, the Nautilus mid lane is something that goes way back to the times where FPX won Worlds, right? So the EU trauma is there. But the question is, like, Froggy is someone that would pull this off. Like,
yeah,
if there's one person in this whole league that would pull the Nautilus mid off again, it's Froggy. And so in the end, you need to pair it with a high damage jungler that can shut down the Tristana fairly early, but you won't really have priority with the Nautilus mid against Tristana. It's again something where it's really rough to fight against those Void Grubs in the early game, especially with Kiaya being such a beast on the K'Sante. And yeah, Lucian is banned. I really love this one. Pyshiro should go for the ADC pick here right now, even though you put away the flags with the Tristana, because support last pick is just so crucial against Senna lanes. Just lock in Kaiser or something here, and we would be happy. Yeah, it's the Kaiser lock in.
And Pyshiro was probably the best Kai'Sa player in the previous split, which is a bold set of words given that we've had some really true professionals for a long time, very high-level veterans that have done some incredible things on Kai'Sa. Last split, Pyshiro was the best Kai'Sa player by a pretty solid standard margin. I like this quite a bit. They don't do anything crazy goofy. They just say, okay, Nautilus is going to be the farmer on bot side. We're going to throw the Jax up in the top lane. We have the Poppy. I guess the Poppy could be moved around if you want it in top lane, or if you really, really wanted it in support, you could put it there. And then, of course, the Azir mid lane gives them consistent and more AoE type damage. This is bold. I was thinking about if they could put a mage on the bottom side of the map and do something with that, like a brand. I was even thinking maybe like Xerath if you really, really wanted to. Now that's the best in the meta right now. Instead, they decide to go for the Rel Kai'Sa for some engaged bot side, and they end up transferring the Rel into the hands of Elio, who's very good at the champion, and grabbing up the brand for themselves. Again, this is something we talked about in Series 1. We're like, oh, is Levi actually going into the meta and then learning new champions? Would you look at that? He actually is.
Yeah, Levi is learning new champions. That's something new here on our side of the broadcast. But, you know, sometimes you can teach an old dog new tricks. And Levi is the veteran. He is the one GAM player, right? Yeah. Like, if there is a GAM legend, it's Levi. But you have to, yeah, as I said, teach an old dog new tricks. I feel like Rel Kai'Sa brand is something that also can dive bot lane once again, right? It's a little bit harder against the Nautilus because Nautilus is really, really tanky, especially if you take Aftershock with you. And you have like this amazing CC onto brand if maybe one of the two carries gets hurt aggro. But in the end, I feel like GAM is going to stick to their guns. Like, get prio bot and mid. Move your bot lane around towards grubs timing, and then play around objectives, and maybe also get Drake plus grubs once again. This is the goal. I feel like if you're pulling it off in the first game, this is the goal once again. Even if it's hard, and in this case, you have again a priority bot lane plus a priority mid lane. Tristana like gets priority in basically every matchup, even though it's Azir, and Azir is a champion that is always able to shove some waves somehow, and is really, really much better into shoving those waves. I'm also not the biggest fan of Glacial here on the Rel, because like Aftershock is something that really enables you diving on bot lane, and you don't have the great tankiness you had in the last game with the Rel plus Lucian Nami. Even though you have more damage, and Elio is in trouble already.
Yeah, out in the middle of no man's land, Elio is just gonna ask to flash. Just immediately has to flash in that one. This is more criminal old school Elio. I know our first week may have been a little bit different. Obviously, playing the Enchanters is a bit of a different kind of breed than what we were accustomed to Elio. For a lot of people that have seen him over the years, Elio has been considerably our I think he was designated our Rel-only player because he was so bad at some of the other supports. And so, you know, I was hoping he would shed some of that, and instead it is the Rel that's actually having the worst of times. You saw a little bit of it in the previous game where, you know, struggling in a couple of team fighting positions. Sometimes he got abandoned. Sometimes it was, you know, a bit of an Elio gap. But in this one, that was another classic Elio moment where he's just in the middle of no man's land for no reason. Not sure what they were trying to call there, but got stuck and wasn't able to make anything happen.
But Rebel, I have a much more important question.
Sure, yeah.
What happened in mid lane? Why does Froggy have 10 HP?
Blazes is somehow able to mind control Froggy into taking trades ahead of the wave every single time. Because it happened with TF last game too, where for some reason he was just like, I could take this fight. And it was even worse because Froggy didn't even start E, which may have won him that fight. No, it was just like he just took the fight with a Q for absolutely no reason. And it meant that the bomb dropped the Blazes. I don't know how he mind controls him. You know what's funny? These two are actually teammates on Saigon Buffalo last year. And Froggy started off as the starter, and then they brought in Blazes and started testing him out, and he played okay. And then they were kind of splitting it, and eventually Blazes was like one of the main carries for Saigon Buffalo that really got them into late game. Obviously, they still had Shogun at the time, who remains on Viking Esports even to this day. But it was kind of awesome because these two were competing for a job, and while Froggy's champion pool kept him relevant, Blazes' performance after like 2 years of not really being around in a starting position is what kind of won him that job. And now these two playing against each other as starters here on completely different teams of the spectrum in the VCS.
Yeah, especially GAM as the super team. Like, as someone from Germany, like, it's the Bayern München of VCS, right? Yeah, in the end, playing on that team is always something that should be. Oh, Levi, what a flash!
Oh, okay. Flash to avoid the W from Style. That's a lot. One auto is all that's necessary. And there it is. Very well played. Pyshiro able to get that plasma stack off. And now that's just a dead Zodiac on my screen. Pyshiro is going to pick that one up. That's big. I mean, that's enormous. That's a Kaiser kill. That's a brand kill. That's a lot that's going to be going over to the side of GAM Esports. I mean, you want to talk about what's going to happen here in the next few minutes. Now you're talking about like Levi suddenly is accelerated to go after Void Grubs when they start spawning. You forget the dragon altogether. You've got Rel Brand. You're going after Void Grubs. You're going to have the dominance sufficient to beat up on Poppy. Soren's not going to have a fun time playing into this. And like you said, this flash at the front end was so good to avoid the stun or the root coming out from Style.
You know, Levi flashed forward with an insanely great reaction time. Afterwards missed all of his spells and they still won the fight. And this is like a testament. Like, I don't understand why Style is there. Like, there has to be someone that calls, oh, Brand might be bot side. Like, the timing was like nothing out of the ordinary for him being bot side at Crabspawn. And like, I don't really understand why you walk up on River and Style dies there for the mistakes that they made him puffing.
Interesting. I don't know what that was all about. Anyway, it was a strange bot lane play, and obviously now we're going to have more than enough to be able to work with here to say GAM should have a significant lead. And I swear we just saw him at full health. Did we not just see him at full health? Froggy's already back down to half health. He just got back to lane, and Blaze is able to pull him. Nice pull onto Elio. Pyshiro is going to deliver a bit of damage. It's not going to be anything significant. As again, you know that Brand is on top side taking these grubs. There's not much he can do about it. He takes them so quick, especially with Tristana. I mean, it's going to be all but inevitable that these two are going to be able to bring down these grubs. And you can see how quick. Seriously, it's like 12 seconds or something timed properly, especially with everything they got. Maybe a fight now. Gotta be a little careful. Levi. Gonna go down. Great damage already onto a couple of members. Does he have enough to get one more spell out onto Ryuk? He will not. Kiaya will be able to clean that one up. And now Blazes gets to cut off Soren. Soren is just stuck in a bad place. Has to flash over the wall onto the wrong side of the map. As bottom lane, I don't know what happened down here. It's a 1-for-1. Zodiac is going up against Pyshiro. Does have the damage as the Nautilus to maybe take this fight. As Pyshiro went the wrong way. Buddy, you're going the wrong way. What are you doing?
Casually... Nautilus 1v1 in Kaiser. No, like it's normal Tuesday in VCS, right? Even though it's first day, it's normal Tuesday in VCS. Like, we have to get a replay of the bot side play. I feel like Kiaya is giga chatting once again on the top side. Really good play from him around Void Grubs. If I saw it correctly, all 3 Void Grubs going to Levi once again. I mean, with the Brand, he's always able to get those really, really fast. Oh wait, it's Friday. Chat, you're right. It's not it.
Wait, what?
Okay. I said it's normal Tuesday, and said it's first, even though it's Thursday, but it's Friday.
What? All right. Okay. I didn't even hear you, so good catch by chat, because I didn't see or hear what that said. So this is a topside fight, which isn't anything crazy. I mean, Ryuk basically was just scrapping with Kiaya. He was trying to get on top of Levi. Yes, Soren eventually does. All they needed was one more spell, and Ryuk was like guaranteed dead. Kiaya ends up cleaning him. With ultimate, certainly that happens. They get the bully. What happened on bot side? Because what I saw was it looked like maybe Rel had gone in. There we go. Oh, that's a great replay. We love you, VCS. Thank you so much. It used to have really bad replays. As Pyshiro gets to work forward, I'm guessing just has to flash and commit to an auto attack when they turn onto Elio. That's exactly what happens. Doesn't have to summon a spell. Oh, why did he turn? Oh, this is really weird. Pyshiro, I don't think I've ever seen him have that much indecision. And now we'll actually dive bot lane. And there's no kills yet, but there is a significant amount of damage dropped onto Zodiac. It looks like Brand has to turn around. Levi's not going to be able to do too much. They're going to get one plate, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Are you not entertained, Twitch chat? That's the big question here, right? Yeah, but in the end, it feels like GAM still got the Void Grubs. They got what they wanted. First strike also going down for them. I don't really know what to say about Pyshiro's movement because that seems a little weird. It seems like autopathing really blocked him or something like this because the indecisiveness of this seems a little weird, especially for Pyshiro, as you said already. But after all those fights, GAM really got what they wanted. They already have first break plus all Void Grubs, and in the end, that's the stuff they were playing for. In the Void Grubs fight, Levi had a bit of rough timing because you need to position somewhere towards the Void Grubs, and then people came crashing from both sides. And that's really not something where you want to be as Brand. Sorn already mid lane again with that Poppy. He's looking for Blazes, but he has a no read on this. Ryuk?
We got fights everywhere. As Ryuk has the ultimate active, so does Ki. They're looking for damage. Well played. Yeah, Blazes was looking for damage. He had somebody hovering him, and Ki is going to win the top lane fight. You can see Ryuk's visceral reaction and losing that. He was maybe an auto attack off. That was so close between the two. Like we said, in mid lane, Froggy took quite a bit, but Blazes was getting camped by Sorn right there, waiting for the interaction to happen as Blazes gets punished for his over-aggression yet again. And the Void Grubs gonna get Kiaya yet another turret played.
Yeah, it's the Giga Chat Kiaya moment, right? Kiaya with the second kill in this game. Now we're seeing the Blazes with, yeah. I mean, that's just basic Azir fighting. Azir probably with the wall, great stuff. Froggy getting the kill, and then it's Kiaya walking up to Rio, seeing that the helicopter is out, and Kiaya is like, okay, I'm taking this one. Oh, great fake out also there, going into that, and then it's K'Sante, right? Give me the Showmaker caption in the Twitch chat. It's just K'Sante Gaming in that case. Froggy getting the kill mid lane, but Kiaya keeps up with his Giga Chat antics and gets the second kill of the game. And yeah, we have the next fight. Like, it's VCS, baby.
Oh, they're going for grubs here. There's actually going to be a fight on the opposite side of this one. Levi has to jump out as fast as possible. He gets a rotation out, though. Fortunately, that's going to be a little bit of a rough one. Zodiac gets a lot of the health dropped. Blazes and Pyshra are still very high health. There's one Void Grub remaining, which is not sufficient to get the Grublings, so I don't think the GAM cares too much. They're actually, I would say, they should be looking for the play afterwards, trying to look for the fight if at all possible. And they're gonna get 4-2. I mean, it's not exactly what you want. You obviously get the empowered version of the grub kind of passive, but you don't get the grublings, which is the whole reason you want to do this. That's the whole reason everybody loves Ed Netty and then Ed Netty 2, Electric Boogaloo. But you're not gonna get that, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're not getting the mini grubs on site. But it's fair from GAM killing that grub, because without his friends, he's a little bit lonely, and so taking that at least. But you know, it's a 5v5 fight in minute 10. That's VCS, but in the end, nothing too crazy coming out of it. Like, Levi in those choke point situations with the Brand is just amazing. Like, the damage he can pull down once he has Liandry's is just so high, and you can't really do anything against it if you're in a choke point. CS numbers on bot lane are something interesting, but they're like constantly fighting right there, so it's kind of understandable. Pyshiro, you're dead, buddy. No, you're not. Nope. Okay, Zodiac's not committing the ultimate. But in the end, it's always both junglers pathing towards bot lane again. Drake is spawning in 30 seconds, so there will be another fight. And GAM needs to prepare for this engage by Zodiac.
Nice. Yeah, nothing crazy. Zodiac takes actually more damage than I think given between both Elio and Pyshiro, so it ends up being a pretty winning situation. Levi's going to head towards bot lane. There's a ward in the brush. Sorn is also here. I think he's just hovering to make sure there's no interaction before the dragon spawns here in just a little bit of time, as GAM, again, pushing for some of those early game objectives just like the last game. Has the ability to punish Sorn. Okay, not going to throw the Q in the right direction to be able to get the stun. Instead, just drive Sorn off. Look for the bot side play. Zodiac gets pulled back in. Ultimate gets up 3. There's a TP in the middle of everything. Sorn misses the E onto Pyshiro. He's able to dash out the backside. There's a big play into the back. Radiant's Kiaya is able to do quite a bit of damage. They're going to bring down the damage dealers as Kiaya's in the back with a lot of low members. Sorn's going to be able to run off. Pyshiro's not going to be able to clean. He's actually going to get killed as Blazes here. He comes. We get Blazes to keep popping off, and now it's a 2v2. Let's see if there's anything more that Blazes is going to be able to get done in this fight. Can he actually find the play against Froggy? No, he can't. So right now, a 3-for-4. Blazes is still full health. Gets there just a little late to clean anything up. And wow, what a scrap in the bot lane. Everybody shows their heads for that one.
Yeah, it's another 5v5 fight in the bot lane. Everyone just running at each other. In the end, it's MBE coming out ahead with the kills, because they were a little bit more decisive with their teleports, a little bit more decisive with their movement towards bot side. Kiaya was a little bit alone on the backside, and the damage was already done. Hook got missed by Zodiac, and then Elio is in the fight. You see the instant teleport coming through now from the Azir. Froggy is there, and even though Soren gets flashed, he still has a knock-up and a lot of damage on Pyshiro. And then insane ultimate. Another fight in the middle. Zodiac already with the first kill. Styles in the backline getting run down by Blaze. And it's Froggy versus Blazes. Blazes jumping out. Meanwhile, Zodiac in the mid lane by Elio and Levi gets gunned down. And Soren chasing Blazes. It's just a fight at 20 fronts. Nice W from Soren.
Yeah. Shutting off the angle of the blast cone there. That was good. I mean, it's just a great fight coming out from the side of GAM. Or I guess this is both sides because it's 2-for-2. The dragon is what they're still fighting over. I mean, Akamask, like, this is now the second full, like, multi-person fight that we've had around just this one dragon alone.
Yeah, Rebel, my friend, that's the longest dragon fight I've ever seen. But
it's not even over yet. It's not even over.
It's not even over. They're like, they fought for the dragon so long that Herald spawned. But GAM is now going to secure that one, and that's the second drag for GAM in this game, and like the second objective for them overall after getting the first overall void grabs. Levi, the person with the most gold, but I don't know, gold isn't the thing that holds anything into this game because like it's just fighting and fighting and fighting. Herald is going down for MBE at this point, but GAM will dive bot lane with the ultimate.
And that's style dead. Zodiac's also going to take quite a bit of damage. Blazes is not going to die to that last tower shot. The grubs would have helped them secure that one, but I think Zodiac's strong enough that you're really, really worried about what the Nautilus would be able to do. If you re-dive him here, you have another wave coming in if they want to try. You're going to have to be Elio probably sacrificing his life just to make this one happen. Oh, wow. Okay. And he gets out. How in the world does he get out of that one? That was insane. I do not know how Elio was able to escape with his life through the Senna ultimate, through the additional tower shot. Yes, they end up giving up the Rift Herald, but they take bottom tower, first tower of the game, decent gold injection, as well as 2 kills to the Brand and the Tristana.
Oh, the question now for me is, does Soren have a driver's license? It looks like he has. So hitting the turret, and that's at least a turret trait in the mid lane.
I gotta say, the VCS had the best ever Rift Herald drift, like, earlier on. If I recall, somebody used it. They drifted around a tower to engage into 2 members from last week. It was absolutely insane, and it was the best Rift Herald I've ever seen used. And I'm like, okay, VCS, apparently we've been working on our Scion drifting routes because we are just ready for this Rift Herald to be driven into cool stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's just like Rift Herald driver's license, you know? At some point you gotta do it. But as you already said, that Rel survives this bot lane dive there is crazy for me, but it's the Rel W that gives you a lot of resistances plus that shield. And in the end, that's what makes this play amazing. That's what makes this play amazing for GAM. They get both kills, and as you saw, there were mini grubs, so like GAM took 5 grub lanes.
I don't know how that's possible. I really don't.
Yeah, they picked up Trick and Truck. I don't know if they're called in English like, I don't know how they're called in English like birds, but in Germany those ducklings from Donald Duck comics, like his nephews. In Germany it's Trick, Tick and Truck. I can't talk anymore. Levi with the flash forwards, get the kill onto Froggy's dead. Yeah, Froggy's dead.
Biggest thing to note about itemization that's going on right now, barely anyone has magic resistance. You have like the mercs, but outside of the mercs, there's no MR. So to me, Levi has a real chance at just snowballing the hell out of this game and being just an unapproachable monster. Right now, you've got Rylai's and Leandry's already done. I'm curious if he ends up going like Storm Surge, or if he ends up going something else like that can really, really kind of snowball this game into his favor. Because truthfully, at this moment, he has got so much damage, and this team's not building magic resistance anytime soon. Not to mention, with all these grublings and with the way the lanes have played out here, the fights that have been taken over the last couple of minutes, now Pyshiro gets a mid lane tower. They're going to be able to grab top lane tower. They already grabbed bot lane tower. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, MBE just fell to pieces on this map. They were competing in fights. They were looking for something bigger and better, and unfortunately, they weren't able to get anything to go significantly in their favor, and GAM is just out-macroing the hell out of them right now.
Yeah, not only out-macroing, but also it feels like out-fighting at some points, because you have those bot lane situations where you just have great dive setups and play this Omega clean. Like, it's not really only thing about macroing. That's the one thing, but also playing those fights after good macro decisions really clean. And I feel like that's a testament to the GAM team. I felt like they looked a little disconnected in the first game, especially at the beginning. But with the second game going on, all of this vanishes. Like GAM looks really clean in this game, and that's a scary sign for all of VCS.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. MBE is not maybe the kind of letterhead of who is going to be expected to be like a top-level opponent for GAM, but the fact that they've now done it twice in a row, they had a very resilient game one, they're getting a very kind of slow, methodical, dominant game number two, is feeling good for themselves to have multiple ways of winning, not just through purely stomping their opponent, but through many things. Blaze... He's ready. He's ready on the draw. Quick draw to Ryuk's engagement right there. As there's a fight on the bottom side of the map. We're waiting for Levi to get in on this, because that's the big one that you're looking for. Is his damage is going to mean all of the world here for GAM in these big 5-on-5s.
Yeah, those big 5-on-5 situations is what you're looking for. Froggy gets the turret, so there's mid prio now, and Elio might get a little bit of damage. The support item already worn off. Drake is on the map, and that's something GAM wants to play around, and Kiaya is there from the side with Levi.
Okay. Mid-inner. Big play. They still have ability to access the river. Blazes is also already in the river, and they know that. MBE might just have to walk back up mid lane, but they're looking to contest the dragon like you were saying. Maybe there's some possibility here. Mid tower is going to get broken, so they don't quite have that. Blaze is now going to drag the dragon down into their territory of the map. And again, with how fast they can take this, you have to be a little bit terrified. Also, one ultimate bounce. Levi's kind of hiding off to the side, making sure that Ryuk is going to have to stay out of the fight at least a little bit longer. You're going to lose vision.
Pashiro to take a long way there. Ryuk in a good position to play again into the backline.
Okay. Let's see what else we got. All right, Dragon's going to get flipped. That's going to go over to the Poppy, but now the fight afterwards, big ultimate gets dropped immediately. Froggy with a big wombo combo with a number of other members. The damage is already done from Levi. Let's see, Blaze just has to bounce around the fight and keep kind of bringing people down. A couple of members very low on the side of GAM. Elio's going to escape. Ryuk's going to go down. The damage was already done. The fight afterwards being played for by GAM, and they're going to clean up everybody, as that might be a Dragon loss, but it is an ace at 18 or 20 minutes here for GAM.
Yeah, it's the ace at 20 minutes, and you have double ADC, so you can just take that Nash with you. And with that, GAM is totally in the driver's seat. 4k gold ahead. This one is going to blow up. And now GAM is on the victory road once again to give us our next 2-0. No 1v1s that they want to play as a map decider. And it's going to be the Nash going down to GAM at minute 21 here. What a dominant performance from them. And that team fight seemed nice by MBE, but Froggy got in there at the moment where Paishiro already got away from the backside. You see, Paishiro is already on the different side. The same goes for Blazes. So you're only having this insane Asia ultimate on the front line and Levi, and that's not what you want, because Paishiro and Blazes are in your backline. They can clean up the fight. So Froggy's ultimate, as intimidating as it looks, only knocks back Cassandra and Brand. And Brand damage was already done. Like, he dropped the ultimate, he dropped his full combo, and in this moment, it's fine if he dies. It's fine if Levi goes down. And on the other hand, if Tristana and Kaiser are both in your backline, that's not the point that you want to play from. And in the end, yeah, great team fighting from GAM in this case, and great synergy from Paishiro and Blazes, who both jump into the backline at the same time to secure this.
Yeah, they're able to kind of use the damage provided by Brand. They win out the team fight. They get up, they don't get the Dragon, but they end up with the Baron. They're going to be pushing here with Void Grubs. They're going to have their Baron buff. They're going to have superior team fight. Their itemization is really coming together. It's unfortunate that Levi decided to go away from anything sort of snowbally. He decided instead to go for the Zonias, so he's got the Seekers right now to have that stopwatch effect, but I would have really liked to see some additional damage. Sword's going to try it. Ultimate's going to go onto Elio. That's probably just a dead Sword, as Paishiro's going to come in and help clean up that kill. Levi's damage is the one that gets it. Zodiac's also going to go down. Froggy slams the door on Kiaya. He's just stuck in a corner right now. Fortunately, he is not a baby, so he can be put in the corner, but it's not going to matter because they've already won 2. Blazes is pushing on bottom lane. Mid-wave is getting pushed. Ryuk's still top, trying to get some kind of recompense for this, but it's just not going to be enough.
Yeah, and that's the GAM we expected to see in game 1, right? That's the GAM playing this clean and this snowball heavy from the start of the season. That's what we expected to see from them, not what we saw in game 1, where they were a little shaky at times. But I feel like this was a team comp from MBE. This one is very, very different in comparison to the last one. Blazes just doesn't care about Froggy's damage, takes that inhib turret. And in the end, that pick team fight comp seemed really good for MBE, and that's the desperate fight, but GAM is so low in HP.
Ryuk looking for another amazing flank. This is kind of Ryuk's whole shtick. Soren is going to be able to put Elio into the wall. They might just have to throw him to the wolves. Elio's going to get out with a bit of the crash. And again, I think Ryuk is going to have to cut his losses and not fight for anybody else. Elio, your sacrifice will be remembered, buddy. This Froggy's going to clean that one up, but they already did such ridiculous damage to the base. I do not think they care at all. Itemization is going to get purchased by both ADCs. Items going to get purchased by Levi. And again, I don't think you're feeling too bad if you're Elio have to throw away your life on that one.
Yeah, I mean, Elio is a sacrificial lamb for the whole series. I feel like had this in game 1 multiple times, and Sadio was so dead.
Yoei is somewhere very angry about that play.
Kiaya is like, I don't care at this point. I just want my Giga Chat MVP number 2. Yeah. And but I feel like this one is going to Levi after this great brand game. And yeah, let's see what are the options for MBE. It's a little bit rough, especially compared to the last game. I already started talking about this a little bit. In the last game, you had this very clear pick identity where you can commit on one target, combined with those great flanks from Ryuk. But I don't really know if that identity switch up to a more teamfight heavy comp really was good for MBE. Now they find Blazes at the side lane.
Yeah, a good little pick off here. And Kiaya is actually here as well, trying to help out his mid laner. Elio's going to be here. Levi now. That's big. That's a lot of damage. This guy, and the fight's completely dead at this point. Pyshiro can actually join in as well if he really wants to. Ultimate from the Poppy gets quite a few people out. Froggy is going to drop Pyshiro. He's going to get ulted on, and that's another dead one. I think if you're MBE and you're looking for how you're supposed to play this game out, it's supposed to be 3 members sitting in front of your Azir and your Senna where they're just supporting the remainder of the fight. But the more you cluster, the more Levi does, the more that Blazes does with AoE, and obviously you can always go diving with Kaisa and with your Tristana. And so they just don't really have a way to get a fight off without getting some kind of pick. That was their best opportunity, I think, but they were already down 8,000 gold. So you're really just I don't think I think you're completely out of options here if you're MBE.
Like, at this stage of the game, Jax, Nautilus, and Poppy aren't tanky anymore, right? Yeah. You have a brand with Liandry's, you have with Liandry's and Rylai's, so you can't really get onto the fight, and that's like choke point, 3 million point blank ultimate from Levi. Like, you can't run into that. If you know Levi is coming your way, you just can't run into those points because you have to clump, and that's the moment where Brand can shine. Third Drake also going down for GAM. I don't think we will get to a soul in this game. Like 26 minutes, next fight is going to end this one. Nash is on the map in a few seconds, and I think GAM doesn't have any problems taking it. They are so fast. And like, Jax, Poppy, and Nautilus aren't tanky anymore at this point. Like, you have Kaiser Brand. Kaiser's doing double damage. Brand is there with the Liandry's. And yeah, Kiaya, compared to the opposing tanks, is tanky. So you can't really commit onto him as well.
Yeah, it's also such a simple composition to play, I think, from GAM. Again, all Levi has to do is hit abilities, and as long as that's the case, I mean, there's really just no way for MBE to not be chunked down most of their health bars in a large way. Top lane is completely free. I'm surprised Blazes isn't already on this tower taking it, but he's going to be very quickly, as that's the entire wave gone. Honestly, if I were them, I mean, the Baron is being threatened. Okay, I was like, maybe they don't want to give the Baron, but that base is dead. Like, they have nothing there. That's a team fight attempt. Blazes is out in the back. Damage is still here from Levi. Ultimate's going to be available. There it is, dropped into the backline, I think, right there. They're kind of not doing enough damage. Soren is almost dead, but everybody else is still fine. Froggy might have a chance here. Pythro has to leave, as there's too many members of GAM that are too low. Levi was not here to really do a bunch of the damage that he needed to, and now they're a little bit terrified. Froggy.
Levi.
Kiaya is going Giga Chad mode into the backline once again. Blaze is getting able to kill Froggy. There's their damage stealer. There's another one. The reinforcement from Levi. Don't worry, guys. Levi's here. You had your chance. You had a little bit of spook. It's okay. He was just playing mind games with you. Triple kill now for the brand. That's going to be the game. Completely done. The whole time I was like, where is their damage? It's just completely. It's because Levi wasn't there. He was just somewhere else for some reason.
Yeah, and the thing is, I feel like MBE wins that fight if they're not 10k gold behind, right? In the end, great fighting from him, but GAM just has too much money in their pockets, and that's the game. That's the game we wanted to see. That's the dominant force of the VCS, because everyone is playing around for weeks and weeks, and in the end, it's GAM winning their games and their trophies, getting their second victory in the VCS here in week number 2 at the second match day. And as I said, that's what we wanted to see from them. That's the GAM we want to see for the rest of the split.
Yeah, it's an exciting one. Again, when they come out and they replace multiple players, especially players like Cotty and in Slater, with players that are new and up and coming like Blazes and Pyshiro, and they go, yeah, this is what we're gonna bank our future on. This is what we're gonna bank. One of the best organizations in the VCS, probably the best organization in the VCS long term. We're gonna bank it on a couple of these new guys. You can see how well it's working out for them. They're doing such a good job. Kind of putting it together. Again, there's still plenty to be had. There's still plenty of kind of development to see from these guys. But truthfully, and I do mean this truthfully, this is yet another split of maybe GAM dominance that we have become accustomed to, even though they swapped out their players. Another 2-0 taken against one of these teams. I think there's still plenty in the road for them to have to deal with, but it is a great way to kind of start off the split.
Yeah, certainly. GAM really starts off the split dominant, especially surprising since you already mentioned it. They mixed up things on the roster, which is something that always comes with a draw of you need to find synergy first in a split. And if you find synergy in a fast way, then it's going to be great for you. If you don't find synergy in a fast way, then you might have some problems in the beginning, and especially for an organization like GAM that is were so successful in the last years, won the last 4 splits, if I remember it correctly. I don't know, doesn't have that much room for failure. Yeah, like, people expect you to win in the organization and outside of the organization. And like, with that expectations comes great responsibility for those new players. And I feel like they had to fill up big shoes, and at the moment it seems like they're filling it up really, really good.
And for the side of MBE as well, the fact that they came out and they were like this competitive, it makes me terrified for like the bottom end of the league. Because right now it feels like Rainbow Warriors are kind of getting their feet underneath them. And I had assumed that like, okay, MGN probably a little bit ahead of Rainbow Warriors, but both of them are sitting at like 7th and 8th. Honestly, Cerberus now is in consideration for probably close to the bottom, if not 7th place. And then you have like this weird cluster of like Viking Esports and Flash and Secret and GAM and Wales and MGN, where if MGN's this competitive against GAM and GAM is supposed to be one of our best, who's to say what's going to happen here? This entire cluster of 6 could be a complete menagerie of different variability, and so MGN might actually break through the floor and end up one of our top 6 teams rather than being a team that's going to head right back to relegation.
Yeah, but in the end, that's the chaos that we're living for, right? Seeing those middle field slumbers and this middle field sort of fighting going on, because like at the top there is sometimes a little bit of boring conversations to be had, but especially in the middle field of a league, it's always like Sunday league fighting, and that's what we want to see, right? In the end, that's the interesting part of a league, like the storylines that make great storytelling of a league like the VCS. And in the end, let's see how this one is going on.
Yeah, a great day from the side of GAM. Again, I think there was a number of players that played particularly well. It was the first time we saw their bot lane struggled just a little bit. I think that was part of the game plan eventually, was to play for that team fighting style here from MGN, and it ended up working out okay, but it wasn't enough to get them the win. Here, that's our first series done completely. Sorry, that was an alarm for a time I was supposed to wake up for work. And now next series we have coming up, and I might get yelled at by my producer for saying this. It says to me that it starts in an hour and a half, which tells me that they were planning for 3 hours. I don't know if they're sticking on that schedule. No, it's not in an hour. Okay, so it's just
Producer is
coming up
streaming
next.
already.
Okay, great. So that means that Team Flash versus Vikings is going to be up. Now, prior to this, we had no idea how the VCS was going to play out. After our first week, we were like, okay, there should be some dominating games out of Wales and out of Team Secret. The box, or the MGN Blue was a little bit closer than I think we thought, but Gamma obviously should have 2-0. This is maybe the first chance we're getting at the actual best of 3 going to 3 games and getting it. And I know maybe we'll keep saying this until it happens. We are maybe getting a legitimate chance at having a 3-game series here, which would be awesome if that were the case.
Yeah, 100%. This is probably the closest game this week, and let's see what's coming out of this. Because like today, the first game today was like a little bit on the Stompy side, especially game 2, and there was to be expected from GAM. If we're being honest, they look better than we expected them, but them winning against MBN was pretty obvious for me, especially for me in that case. But yeah, let's see how the second game turns out. And then yeah, I feel like we're going to have a break of production.
We typically do. Is that true? Yolway? Are we
Your
taking a
way.
break before the next series?
Okay, then we're going into a break. Thank you very much, and see ya, guys.